the grounds of West Deptford High School in West Deptford, New Jersey, GCEN presents high school football. Tonight, it's a Group 2 matchup. Haddonfield taking on West Deptford. Hello again, everyone. Rob Christ along with my partner, Scott Chappelier. Beautiful night here for football, about 70 degrees, a slight breeze, a chance of rain. But one thing we're certain, a lot of thunder tonight. Big hitting between these top teams in all of South Jersey. West Deptford, the perennial champion, but it's Haddonfield who is now king of the mountain. Of course, they defeated this very West Deptford team on this very field last year, December the 3rd, in a great game that we had right here on GCEN. Well, Scott, of course, these two teams, as we mentioned, becoming true rivals. West Deptford has owned Haddonfield during the regular season. However, Haddonfield has defeated West Deptford each of the last two times in the playoffs. Each team perhaps with a score to settle.
Absolutely. I mean, these two teams have gotten to know each other so well over the last few years. As Frank Delano said, this is the 7th meeting in the last 36 games between these teams. You know, it almost gets to the point where there's nothing new to show between these teams except the kids. So they're just going to line up and find out which team's better at the end of the night.
For Haddonfield, they boast a multifaceted attack with many Division I prospects. They are led with their running game, and that is Chris Dangler. Dangler has been absolutely unbelievable these past two games, 3 touchdowns in each, and he's the man that makes it all happen.
You know, Chris Dangler, you know, as Coach Delano said, you know, he's found another gear this year that has helped him, you know, show some breakaway speed, averaging over 22 yards a carry and only a handful of carries so far this year, but over 300 yards rushing is pretty amazing.
On the other side of the football, West Deptford really likes their running attack this year. They feel that they can run between the tackles. First time in a long time, probably since they had Tom Walls, who, of course, went on to Boston College. But it's Josh Cornelius who's going to lead the way despite a bit of a setback.
Yeah, you know, apparently he stubbed his toe earlier this week, so he's not going to be punting tonight, as actually his younger brother Luke is going to be punting, a freshman. But Josh will still be dependent upon to carry the football. He's the kicker for this team. You know, they're going to rely on him a whole lot, and on defense, too, at linebacker. He's going to carry the load for this team.
You know, there's really no way of figuring out how to determine who's going to win this game until the very last whistle. Each game that they've played over the past couple of years has been back and forth. Last year, Haddonfield came away with a big lead early, and then West Deptford came storming back. So turn it on early, turn it down often, and don't go anywhere. We'll have another great matchup here. West Deptford, Haddonfield from West Deptford High School here on the GCN. Welcome back to West Deptford High School, about to get underway. It was Haddonfield who won the toss. They have elected to receive. And Haddonfield in their traditional white, trimmed in scarlet and black. West Deptford in hunter with white outlined in black. Beautiful night, Scott, and a great crowd on hand. Always electric when these two teams get together. It's really interesting to see how the Colonial Conference has evolved. For years we talked about Paulsboro and West Deptford, Paulsboro and Woodbury, and of course now all of the attention on these two teams.
Yeah, and you know, Paulsboro and West Deptford had become a really great rivalry about 5-6 years ago when both teams were really good and were playing really great games for the first time really in the history of the series. And now, because of Haddonfield and West Deptford being in the same group and meeting twice a year for the last 3 years, this has really become the landmark rivalry.
West Deptford, again, will be kicking off. And for West Deptford, it'll be Josh Cornelius who will kick it away. We mentioned in the open a broken pinky toe, according to head coach Clyde Folsom. And the man to keep an eye on, of course, is Chris Dangler, number 22. Last week, he returned a touchdown, one of his 3. Both of these teams would like to control the clock. Field position will be critical, and we'll see how it starts here as we await the kick of Cornelius, and we're underway here at West Deptford. Back to take it in the end zone, and the kicking game's going to play a huge role this evening, Scott.
Yeah, and Josh Cornelius has proven that he can kick the ball like that. And Alex Walter, the kicker for Haddonfield, was booming some kickoffs during the warm-up. So you may see a lot of drives starting at the 20.
First down and 10 from that 20-yard line. We mentioned that West Deptford will be missing a key component of their defensive line. And we'll keep an eye on that because that may be an area that they will try to exploit once they realize that he is out. 1st and 10. Inside handoff and not a whole lot there. Gain of maybe 1 or 2. Dangler on the carry.
And Jameel Pollard made the tackle there, and of course he'll be a factor on the West Deptford defense, Division I prospect who had verbal to Penn State. So we'll see how Haddonfield tries to combat him as the game wears on.
Haddonfield has scored a grand total of 93 points in the first 2 games, giving up 0. So this is a vaunted offense coupled with an excellent defense. 2nd down for the Bulldogs. Again, out of the shotgun. And the quarterback keeps, and he's into the secondary. And a nice run by Simonecki.
Yeah, Simonecki, was actually a wide receiver before this year, but took over quarterback and, obviously has the ability both to run and has thrown very little this year, only 3 pass attempts this season.
That's enough for the 1st down. 1st down and 10 for the Bulldogs. We're just a minute in here. Group 2 showdown between the 2 powers. You have to believe, Scott, that whoever wins this one becomes the favorite to win Group 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, it's still just week 3, but this is a huge game.
Quick out. Simonecki finds his man, and that'll be very close to a 1st down. A quick hitter for Matt Baya. Of course, his brother now up at Princeton playing quarterback. Baya was a key part of that championship team last year.
And, of course, his little brother is also getting some Division I AA looks, some Ivy League looks as well. So they could play maybe on the same team or maybe even on different teams against each other once he gets to college.
This is a Haddonfield team, as we mentioned, that has 4 or 5 guys who are garnering Division I interest. And that's a rarity for any team in the Colonial Conference, particularly for Haddonfield. But that speaks volumes about how this program has evolved. 1st down and 10, again, for the Bulldogs. And we're going to have a penalty here in the area of holding. It looked like it was Walker on the carry. Take a look at Frank Delano. We mentioned the job that he has done. Of course, he was at the helm last year, and he's really created an atmosphere of winning here at Haddonfield.
Yeah, I mean, first as an assistant coach and now in his 10th year as head coach for the Bulldogs, he's done an amazing job of building this program up into what it is now.
So that'll back up the Bulldogs 10 yards. And again, you have to believe that this is going to be a game of possession, Scott. And anytime you shoot yourself in the foot with a penalty, you're playing right into the hands of the opposition.
Yeah, this is definitely not a game where you want to get into 2nd and long, 3rd and long.
Quick handoff up the middle. Pick up about 4 or 5. That'll bring up a long 2nd down. Call it about 14. There you see Dangler. Dangler has been just unbelievable. 330 yards over the past 2 games. And 141 coming last week. 3 touchdowns. 2 on the ground, 1 via a kickoff return versus Hollingswood last week. Simonecki flushed out of the pocket, throws it up, man wide open, and overthrows his intended receiver, Walker. It looked like Simonecki kind of rushed that pass a little bit. He could have easily underthrown the pass and allow Walker to come under it as there was a blown coverage, but instead it'll bring up a long 3rd down.
And, when we talked to Frank before the game, he talked about the fact that they're not a team that throws the football. If they want to establish the running game exactly for this reason, because one incomplete pass like this, and suddenly they're in 3rd and long, and now they pretty much have to throw the football.
One thing that Haddonfield has working is that Chris Dangler is the type of player that can break even a relatively benign run into something big. Deep drop. Simonecki flushed again out of the pocket, runs into his own man, and then into the arms of West Deptford's big number 77, Jameel Pollard, and he's a man that we'll be talking about throughout the evening.
I mean, you got to love Jameel Pollard. He's 6'5", 285, just loves to get in there and loves to hit. And he saw the opportunity, and once Simonicki ran into his own lineman, it was all over with.
You know, on offense and defense, typically, Scott, there's one or two guys that you always have to account for. Jameel Pollard is that guy for West Deptford.
Absolutely.
So a long fourth down here, about 19 yards, and the Bulldogs will be forced to punt it away with 8:35 and counting remaining here in this first quarter. Punt away, and a fair catch called and taken at the 34-yard line by Aaron Bundy. Bundy, a name that probably very familiar with here in South Jersey. First down and 10 for the Eagles, their first time with possession. We talked a little bit before, Scott, about this vaunted Haddonfield offense. Well, I tell you what, the only offense scoring more points than them, West Deptford, they've scored 105 points over the past 2 weeks, shutting out Audubon 49-0 and defeating Sterling 56-12. Cornelius on the carry, not a whole lot there. Second down.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things we're really going to have to keep an eye on as the game wears on, is that neither of these teams have been challenged in their first two games, and both teams' starters have been off the field by the end of the first half. So, you know, neither of these teams have had to play 4 quarters of football yet, and we'll have to see who that affects as the game wears on.
There you see Clyde Folsom, certainly always part of the discussion when you talk about the top coaches in all of South Jersey. He has done a yeoman's job here at West Deptford. And Haddonfield just denying anything right now from West Deptford. They'll lose a couple of yards on that one, and that'll bring up a third down and a long 9.
And that was Phil Fisher, the other halfback, along with Cornelius. You know, and again, neither of these players have had many carries yet this season. I mean, you know, between the two of them, they've had 11 carries. So it'll be interesting to see how they hold up.
Quick drops, setting up the screen, overthrown, but a nice catch made there by Jakubowski. But Hannon made it a little bit tough on him, so as a result of him reaching out, he didn't have an opportunity really to avoid the Haddonfield defense. And it's 3 and out for the Eagles, so that's a moral win for Haddonfield.
And it was a nice tackle by Perkins as well, because if Jakubowski gets by him, he might have a shot to pick up the first down.
So 4th down and 5, and again, it's going to be West Deptford punting away to the always dangerous Haddonfield's Chris Dengler. Taken at the 26-yard line, right up the gut. Dengler finds a seam. Dengler right up the middle to the 45, down the sideline at the 30. Has one man to beat, cuts it inside and taken down at the 9-yard line.
Wow, he just found a huge hole there on that return. Once he got it, I mean, he got a good running start, and they're lucky that they were able to get him before he got to the end zone.
Well, head coach Frank Delano said that he has found another gear this year, and we've seen it already on display tonight. As you can see, after avoiding that tackle, he just kicked it up a notch, but this may be coming back due to a penalty on the field. That's going to negate an absolutely huge play by Dengler.
Ooh, that'd be a shame.
So if it is a hold, that's going to come all the way back to Haddonfield's side of midfield. So ostensibly, Scott, this is going to be about a 60-yard penalty.
Yeah, way back at the 46 of West Deptford, so they'll be back in their own territory again. Huge break for West Deptford there.
Hold call against Haddonfield.
That backs him all the way up.
Penalty's going to bring the ball all the way back to the...
Holy smokes. They're still going back. They're running out of room here. This is more than a 60-yard penalty.
This has got to be more than one penalty, doesn't it?
No. unless it was a personal foul.
Wow.
So that's backed up all the way inside the 20. So you're talking essentially about an 83-yard penalty. That may be the most egregious hold that I've seen in some time. And of course the argument is, Scott, that without the hold, would Dangler have made that return?
Obviously so.
First down and 10, Bulldogs. 6:20 remaining. We are scoreless here at West Deptford. Simonecki keeps, and he's cut down at about the 23. Pickup of about 5, 2nd and 5.
And, you know, Simonecki is actually one of the leading rushers on the team, so, you know, obviously they're willing to run the ball with him and use that speed that he has. So
second down and 5. I formation for the Dogs. Handoff inside, and Dangler will pick up maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid defensive front that West Deptford puts out there with Josh Roan, Jamil Pollard at the tackles, and you know, even with Phil Fisher, another veteran guy at defensive end. I mean, you know, I think they're going to find tough sledding between the tackles.
Well, it's interesting that West Deptford's Clyde Folsom said one key to today's game is we have to avoid major penalties. Right now, it's Haddonfield that has not had the ability to do that. Pitch inside, driving forward and close to the first down. It looks like it'll be enough.
Game's good enough for a Haddonfield first down.
When in doubt, go to Chris Dangler. Well, the first drive, Scott stopped by a Haddonfield penalty, and of course that kickoff or punt return stopped by a Haddonfield penalty. They'll see if they can continue to maintain possession. First down, and that's big right there to kind of get the monkey off your back.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and this is kind of what they want to do is build long, time-consuming drives and grind it out on the ground.
Simonecki, quarterback draw, and cut down by Hannon.
Yeah, you notice Phil Fisher stayed at home there at defensive end, and Hannon came up to help out. And you know, I think they're quickly learning to keep an eye on Simonecki, and you know, that he's going to keep the ball as often as not.
Second down. We'll call it 9. Ball spotted at the 30-yard line of the Bulldogs. Clock continues to run inside of 4 minutes now. First quarter. Haddonfield struck first last year on this field in the South Jersey Championship game. Simonecki, quick out, finds Walker. Walker cuts it back inside, and Hannon will push him back. And he's still driving forward, and that'll be enough for a first down. So a great effort by Walker.
Yeah, very impressive. Walker's a really nice-sized kid, 6'2", 175. You know, a kid that another one of those that group of Haddonfield kids that's getting some interest from Division I schools. You know, he's getting some CAA looks. You know, he may get some Ivy looks before it's over. And that's one of the things that Coach Delano talked about, is that all these kids have not just the potential on the field, but in the classroom as well. And that's why they're getting these looks from these great Division I AA schools.
Another penalty here, and this one's going to go against the Bulldogs. Dead ball foul, procedure. Haddonfield, first down and 15 now.
And another penalty for Haddonfield.
That's a third penalty already. You know, Scott, one of the things that is always difficult for teams of this caliber is they tend to roll over everybody, and you don't know how they're going to perform in a game that's tight.
Absolutely.
First down, 15. Simonecki, empty backfield. And again, another penalty. And this is why head coaches have gray hair.
And Coach Delano seemed pretty happy with the attitude of his team coming into this game, despite the magnitude of it. He said they were, had the radio on, were dancing in the locker room before the game. They were much looser than last year's regular season game at Haddonfield, and after a pretty promising start, they may be showing a few nerves here.
First down and 20 for the Bulldogs.
Already their 4th penalty of the game for 30 yards. But obviously, as you noted before, that one penalty on the kick return was a lot more damaging than just 10 yards.
Simonecki fakes the handoff, rolls to his right with a lot of room already into the secondary. Misses 1, 2, and it's finally the 3rd and 4th tacklers of West Deptford to bring him down, but a huge gain on the quarterback keep.
Tell you what, he's thrown the ball pretty well, and you've got to love the way that he's running the football, and he's getting some good blocking downfield.
That did not look like a waggle. That looked like a run play entirely.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely a design play.
Second down and 5 as Haddonfield approaches midfield. Ball spotted on their own 45. The pitch, Dangler drops it, falls on it. And that'll lose another 5 yards. That'll bring up a 3rd down and 10. Dangler may have peaked.
Yeah, might have looked upfield before he grabbed that football.
It's a fast-moving first half, and I'm not sure that either coach is disappointed with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Clyde Folsom would like to see a little bit more out of his offense, but critical 3rd down here, 3rd down and 10 at the 40-yard line for the Bulldogs. West Deptford with only one possession. It was a 3 and out. Simonecki out of the shotgun, keeps, drops, has time, finds his man. It's caught. It's Walker. Walker still on his feet. Walker breaking tackles down to the 35-yard line. Well, I tell you already, Scott, I've been impressed with the arm of Simonecki and the pass catching ability of Walker. You can see why he's garnering Division I ability, but I think one of the things that perhaps goes unnoticed too is Walker's ability to run with the football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the yards after catch there, I mean, he caught that ball right at the 1st down marker and gained an extra 15 yards after that. So now they're deep in West Deptford territory and still driving.
1st down and 10, ball at the 35. Simonecki hand off inside and finally brought down after 3 or 4 yards. Before I forget, we had a few penalties here. Let's go through our officials tonight. The referee is Harry Davis. The umpire, John Calabria. Linesman Tom Farr. Line judge Jim McGovern. Back judge Jack Grenfell. And our always reliable clock operator is Fred Kohler. 2nd down, we'll call it 7. And clock continues to run. It stopped with 9.2 seconds. And now the clock will run. So that'll do it for the first quarter. It's been a lot of Haddonfield offense. Despite that, no score as we head to break. Haddonfield and West Deptford. Stick around. We'll be back with the second quarter in just a moment. Welcome back to West Deptford. Rob Christ here with Scott Chappelier bringing you Group 2 football action. West Deptford hosting Haddonfield. 2nd down and 7. This drive has consumed over 6 minutes on the clock. This is their 10th play of the drive. Simonecki hands off, an end around, and Hannon beat on the outside, down the far sideline. 1st down. Haddonfield with Matt Baya and a big carry.
Another big run by Matt Baya. He can do a little bit of everything for you. I mean, he plays receiver, but, he's the kicker, he's the punter. He can run. He plays linebacker on defense. Kind of like his brother in that way, does a lot of everything for this team.
1st and 10, Haddonfield. Clock will continue to run. This is a drive that has, as we mentioned, consumed close to 7 minutes. And you know what, Scott? It's almost as if both coaches are happy about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Simonecki again on the carry. looks to cut it outside, cut down at the 10-yard line. Nice tackle made in the open field by Alex Holt. And he said, why would both coaches be happy? Well, Haddonfield wants to dominate the football. With that, they're not allowing that vaunted West Deptford offense to be on the field. But conversely, West Deptford feels like their defense is holding, and they're still able to hold here as West Deptford yet to crack the end zone.
Yeah.
Tackle made there by Alex Holt. Anthony Scarato's former number. Ironically, this is Hall of Fame night. Anthony Scarato, the former Penn State star, to be honored tonight for Hall of Fame night here at West Deptford High School. Simonecki out of the shotgun. Quick drop flushed out by Pollard. Again, Simonecki, and now throws it into the end zone and wisely throws it away. But again, you see a little bit of that escapability of Simonecki.
Yeah, and good pressure up front, though. You got Pollard flushed him out of the pocket, and then more pressure came up from the ends, and he ended up just having to get rid of the football. And I think that was definitely a throw out of the end zone.
Two different Eagles with an opportunity to swoop down on Simonecki. They came up empty. Third down now and 9.
Certainly don't want to make a mistake down here at this time.
.10:36, we're scoreless. I formation, and Dangler will go in motion. Simonecki rolls to his left, pulls up, looks inside, touchdown!
Walker again, finding a hole in that defense, just sitting down there, and Simonecki buried it right between the numbers.
Well, again, Simonecki kind of rolling to his offside there. Against the grain, pulls up and throws a seed, and right between the 2 and the 1. Mike Walker scoring the first touchdown of the night. And now West Deptford will look to extend to 7-0. Drive, 8 minutes and 50 seconds, culminating in the Walker TD. The extra point is up, and the kick is good. So Haddonfield strikes first. They lead 7-0 with 10:30 remaining in this first half. You know, you look back at the first quarter and a minute or so, and if you are West Deptford, what do you come away with if you're Clyde Folsom?
I mean, you've got to like the fact that they forced them to drive the length of the field, but I mean, you've got to be worried about the fact that they were able to do it. I mean, the 2 false start penalties pushed that back to 1st and 20. And then Simonecki got that big 15-yard run to give him a reasonable chance. And then even after the fumble pushed back to 3rd and 10, they still converted. And it'll be interesting to see, Simonecki's already thrown twice as many passes in the first 14 minutes than he had all season in the first 2 games. And, West Deptford's missing somebody in their secondary, Alex Hillman, who actually had a touchdown on an interception return earlier in the season, is missing the game tonight. He's their starting cornerback because it's his sister's wedding. I mean, you can't blame him for that. I mean, you got to be there when your sister's getting married.
You got to talk to your sister about that.
I think so too. But Holt, who made the tackle earlier, has moved to cornerback, and they put in Connor Smith at safety. So we'll see how that affects the secondary of West Deptford as the game goes on, if Haddonfield keeps throwing the football.
West Deptford back to receive the kick. First time tonight. Walter to kick it away. And booms one deep into the end zone. And this will not be returned. Walter showing off that vaunted leg.
Like I said earlier, he was booming them in practice during warm-ups. And
here you see nephew of our own John Mondelli, Ty Cobb, son of John Cobb.
We'll try not to hold that against him.
I tell you what, I've been doing football around here and soccer for some time. I can remember when he was 1/3 that size. Hand off,
And not a whole lot there for Josh Cornelius. This is essential, this series, Scott, for West Deptford to get a first down.
Absolutely. They've got to get a couple of first downs and try and, A, get the ball out of their own end, and B, give their defense a little bit of a break. I mean, they have several kids that play both ways, but, it's one thing when you're blocking for your own team moving forward, and it's another thing when you're having to stay on the field trying to tackle the other team. So, if they can just give their defense a little bit of a break here, it'd be a big boost to this team.
Second down and 7. Pounds in the backfield. And a little inside double reverse. Cornelius around the end. A big hit laid out by Simonecki. Cornelius on Simonecki. And that's a first down for the Eagles. And I think that's going to allow Clyde Folsom to breathe a little bit easier. You can see that Cornelius really favoring that 1 foot.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously he's not punting tonight, but he's still kicking, and it'll be interesting to see if this affects the kicking game as the game wears on. Something that West Deptford's always prided itself on, whether it'll bother him late in the game.
Inside handoff, Towns into the secondary, driving, extending, first down. Keith Towns is a big part of this offense. Gerald Towns, 154 yards on 5 carries in the opener against Audubon. And this is a guy that Clyde Folsom really likes, and he's just going to get better, just a sophomore.
Well, you got to love his size. I mean, we're talking 6'2", 245.
Cornelius cut down at the line of scrimmage by Dangler, but what they like about this team, Scott, is the fact that they really feel like they can run between the tackles, and that's probably how you have to attack this West Deptford team.
Yeah, and this team will not have long-term success. They don't have, the speed guys that they have in the past, so they're going to have to run between the tackles to be able to move the football downfield.
And it rolls, keeps across midfield into the secondary, driving, first down, West Deptford. Nimble run by Jake Hannon.
And, you haven't seen Hannon run the ball a whole lot, but if you noticed a couple of plays ago when Cornelius got that first down, Hannon was blocking for him on that play ahead of him, and then you see him take off with the football there. I mean, Hannon's become a lot more physical with the football as he's aged.
Referee Harry Davis showing there was a hold or a block in the back against the Eagles, so that'll negate that first down.
Yeah, it's still an 8-yard gain for Hannon, but then the penalty from there, and that's a tough blow for this team, although, they've still moved the football pretty well to this point, so, hopefully, it's still 2nd and 12. They've still got 2 more downs.
Second down and 12 for the Eagles. Hannon looking to the sidelines for the offensive call, and Folsom will have it run in by Tom Jakubowski. Split end. A big part of this West Deptford offense. Good size, Jakubowski, 6'3". Again, inside. It's Cornelius to the 30.
Well, obviously, Cornelius still has a little bit of speed, even with the injury.
And Cornelius will come off. See again, kind of favoring that foot. Maybe just getting a breather, but a big run there by Cornelius.
44-yard gain, up to 59 yards rushing now for Cornelius. Might see Towns here.
This is just what West Deptford likes to do, is counterpunch, and Towns driving forward. If you're Clyde Folsom, this is exactly what you want. Not just one big play, but a drive that's protracted and punishing. Second down. Actually, first down. First down and goal at the 2-yard line.
You gotta love the way the Towns runs the football, just straight ahead. Even if it's just a sophomore, he knows he's got the size to compete and 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 compete.
Be the guy right here, just try to pound it in with that big 6'2", 245 frame. Laundry everywhere. False start against West Deptford. And we mentioned before, you cannot commit big penalties. One of the things that Coach Folsom pointed out, and this would certainly qualify.
Yeah, I guess the nice thing is the way that Towns has been running the football, 2nd and goal with the 7 doesn't really make that much of a difference for him as 2nd and goal with the 2.
Is that what you do here? Do you give it to Towns?
I don't know. Maybe you almost run a play action here because you've got Jakubowski, who's got a lot of size.
There it is. It's Cornelius. Cornelius cuts it inside. Touchdown.
Nice job. Macklin was there waiting for him, and he just faked him out, stayed inside, and got it into the end zone.
Well, you have to have a tremendous amount of respect for that young man right there. It's really cut against the grain, and that's got to be painful with that broken pinky toe. But he really put the Eagles on his back on that drive, and now we'll try to finish things. Cornelius last week against Sterling, 8 extra points. He accounted for 20 points through 2 touchdowns and 8 extra points, and now he'll try to account for the first 7. Timeout called by West Deptford.
It's not necessarily when you want to use a timeout on the extra point, but Clyde doesn't want to take any chances here when they're trying to tie the game up.
Absolutely.
You know, the drive was only 3:49. Now, obviously, they had a couple of big plays there that shortened the field for them, but still, to be able to march 80 yards, keep the defense off the field, force that Haddonfield defense to work a little bit.
He calls a timeout on the extra point. You mentioned it's a short drive. Is he calling a timeout here possibly to kind of slow things down, allow his defense to recuperate?
Possibly. I mean, I tend to think that it's maybe more that they just didn't have the personnel correct on the field to execute the PAT. And you don't want a penalty there to force an extra 5 yards. You want to give Josh Cornelius every opportunity to make it as easy on him as possible, especially with the toe.
Well, we expected a great game, and we're off to a great start.
Absolutely. And, you know, the interesting thing to watch over the course of this game will be when the game has been lower scoring the last few years, that's when Haddonfield's found the most success. When the score gets up there in the 20s and 30s, that's when West Deptford finds ways to win games.
Cornelius on to attempt the point after. The kick is up, and it's good. We are knotted at 7 here with 6:41 remaining in the first half. Scott, it's kind of interesting. You talk about what's happened in past games. The last 2 years, West Deptford victorious in the regular season, Haddonfield victorious in the postseason. You know, it's almost as if you're West Deptford and you lose during the regular season this year, you say, well, that's okay. You know, maybe that means it's going to be our time come postseason.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is an important game for both teams for playoff seeding, power points, because you both expect
the conference.
both these.
Of course, that also is for the conference.
Absolutely. I mean, and the conference does mean a lot. I don't think it means as much as it used to the coaches now that the divisions are split, because West Deptford-Paulsboro doesn't have an effect on the outcome in the conference. You know, if Haddonfield plays a Woodbury, then it doesn't necessarily have that same impact. But, you know, I think this is more about the postseason and playoff seeding, because I think both these teams would love to have home field advantage come that point.
We saw an earlier shot of John Cobb, who we spoke of earlier, with his other son, Jacob. So we're getting the whole Mondelli infrastructure here. Soon we'll have his wife. Who else are we going to have, John, our producer? 6:41 remaining. We are knotted at 7. Rob Christ here with Scott Chappelier, our opener here on the Gloucester County Educational Network. And I couldn't think of a better game to open up a season with. We look around South Jersey, Scott. I want you to think about some of the surprise teams. We'll talk a little bit about that momentarily. But first, it's going to be Dangler, who we've seen can be very dangerous in the return game. Of course, almost scoring a touchdown earlier. It was called back via a holding penalty. Line drive kick, and again, it's going right to Dangler across the 20. Still on his feet and finally cut down at the 26-yard line.
That was actually Matt Baya there, and another dangerous guy. I mean, as dangerous as Dangler is, the other guy back there is no piece of cake either to bring down.
First and 10, Haddonfield.
So Scott, surprises this year.
I think it's I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise, but it's nice to see Timber Creek play the way that they have this year. They've had a couple of big games early in the year, and they haven't always won those games, even when they've had really strong teams in the past couple of years. It's really nice to see them actually come out, play the way that you expect them to play, and still be undefeated at this point.
Quarterback draw Semenecki, and we're going to have another holding penalty here. So this play's coming back. How about a Colonial Conference last week? Haddon Heights upending Woodbury. Surprised by that?
I was, I guess, maybe more to see just how good Haddon Heights might be than to see Woodbury struggling, because I think we've seen, Woodbury lost almost their entire offensive line, only have one returning starter. They have a couple of kids on that line that haven't even lined up in a three-point stance before this year. So there's a lot of inexperience. It may take some time for that line to gel, and as great as Averett is, he can't do it all himself.
Over in Group 4, we saw Williamstown with a big win last week over Cherokee, and also Cherry Hill East with a big win over Washington Township.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Cherry Hill East plays over the course of the season. They've had a couple of nice wins early, but the schedule's only going to get tougher from here on out, and it'll be interesting to see if they can maintain that momentum throughout the season and maybe make the playoffs for the first time in a while.
Tom Cohen, the head coach at Cherry Hill East, with the spread offense, and it looks like it's finally taking hold over at Cherry Hill East. So after the holding penalty, a handoff inside, not a whole lot there. And again, Haddonfield has repeatedly shot themselves in the foot. There you see a good shot of big Gerald Towns. He's not just Towns, he's an entire city.
Yeah, not just town. Well, actually, he might be several towns put together.
Yeah, that's right.
Second down and 16.
Look out in the stands. You see a Gary Brackett jersey on display here. Brackett out for the season with the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, a local product out of Glassboro High School, and went on to play his football at Rutgers. Second down and 17. Semenecki rolls to his right. Now flushed out of the pocket, and he throws it, and it's knocked down. Now, kind of an interesting play there. You can't really call grounding, I guess, if you throw it off the defensive player, can you?
Yeah, well, he didn't have much of a choice, because I don't think there was any way for him to get it around that defensive player. That's Pollard again, putting more pressure on Semenecki. And, for such a big guy, Pollard has nice side-to-side speed to flush the quarterback out of the pocket and to stay near him to keep him from actually getting around the corner and being able to scramble for yardage.
Well, this is a big play here for West Deptford. It's going to be a big stop, and if they can force West Deptford to punt it away deep in their own end. We talked about how the penalties have really played a role in this game, and they have really hurt West Deptford. 5 penalties,
40 yards for Haddonfield already.
Semenecki again rolling to his right. He'll tuck it under, has some room to operate, and he's pushed out about the 30-yard line, and that'll force the Bulldogs to punt it away.
And that was Alex Holt again. They're doing just enough to trip him up and to let the rest of the defense come in behind and clean it up.
Brings up 4th down and 6 for Haddonfield.
4th down and 6 for the Bulldogs. And back to receive the punt is Aaron Bundy. Punt is away. Bundy underneath it. Now backing up over his head. lets it bounce, doesn't touch it, and that is a colossal error as it is down at the 9-yard line.
It looks like the breeze is picking up a little bit, and he was kicking with that wind, and it just seemed to just take that ball and carry it right over Bundy's head.
61-yard punt. And you talk about a big change. We mentioned what a big stop that was, forcing Haddonfield to punt deep in their own end, and now it is West Deptford who's backed up in their own end with just under 5 minutes remaining. There you get a look at the breeze that you mentioned.
Those flags were barely moving earlier in the game, but it seems to be picking up. And, you know, we saw all the clouds and the chance of rain earlier. It could mean that maybe some of that weather is headed this way.
Absolutely. First down and 10. If you're West Deptford, at the very least, you'd like to come away with the first down and eat some clock. Little end around, and not a whole lot there as Smith on the carry. Gain of 1 or 2.
And, you know, obviously 91 yards in 5 minutes is not something that West Deptford does on a regular basis. I mean, you know, they were able to do it 80 yards in under 4 minutes on the last drive because they broke a couple of big plays, but they're going to have to do that again if they hope to score again before the half.
Second down. And right up the middle, Towns into the secondary, just bowling his way forward. Ball comes loose, and West Deptford on the football. That's just a hustle play right there by Todd Farrell.
Todd Jarrell, man, a great player at linebacker for this team, makes a nice play at guard, being Johnny on the spot to pick up that fumble.
Well, again, Todd Jarrell, and that's only comes through hustle. Towns just punishing that Haddonfield defense, but it's Jarrell that makes the big play, as now West Deptford with breathing room as the clock continues to move, headed to the 4-minute mark. Inside handoff and just not much doing. Cornelius for a gain of 1.
And, you know, when I saw Connor Smith out there to start the drive, I was wondering if maybe Cornelius was feeling the effects of that toe a little bit, but it's nice to see him back on the field.
Second down. Towns your lone running back. Hannon throws into the flat, has his man, and that's Cornelius. That'll be very close to another first down.
That's an interesting play there to call. I mean, you know, they don't throw the ball much at all, and that's Hannon's first completion of the season to anyone other than Jakubowski.
That's going to be just shy of a first down. So inside of 3 minutes now, clock continuing to move. And interestingly, it's Towns that comes off. You would think that they would use the big guy here on third down and short. Inside handoff, Cornelius, and a big surge by that West Deptford line creates plenty of space, and another first down here for the Eagles.
But I think that right there speaks to just how highly they think of Josh Cornelius, that they move him to fullback for that play and give him the ball on third and short to get that first down.
I think it also speaks to their confidence in their offensive line. And a good push there. Credit to the guys in the trenches. First down and 10 inside of 2:20. Handoff, and not a whole lot there. Well, at this point, the clock continuing to move. You know, if you're West Deptford, it's almost a moral victory to come away with eating up clock and not allowing Haddonfield to get excellent field position after being pinned back to your own 9.
That is true, and you see them shuffling a lot of running backs in and out. They've already used 5 different backs so far tonight. Looks like they're trying to spread the ball around quite a bit.
Cornelius in motion. He gets the handoff, and Cornelius will pick up about 6 or 7.
And, you know, maybe this is something that we'll see as the game wears on, but maybe you know, as the adrenaline gets flowing and everything, the toe will actually affect him less, and, you know, because it doesn't seem to be bothering him too much when he's running the football.
West Deptford calls timeout. 3rd down and 3.
Already 10 carries on the night for Josh Cornelius for 77 yards.
Minute 27 remaining. You see Clyde Folsom. This is an opportunity for him to make sure that they have the right set, and also an opportunity to allow his players to kind of catch their breath. It's been an interesting game thus far. It's a serious ebb and flow, as the first quarter was really all Haddonfield despite no scoring. And after the score quickly into the second quarter, since then it's really been all West Deptford.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's almost a mirror of the first quarter. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see what Clyde calls here, because there's a minute and a half left. They're still 50 yards away from the end zone and probably 30 yards away from where you'd want Cornelius to maybe kick from. So they've got to get the first down so they don't have to punt, but they also still want to try and get in scoring position.
3rd down. Hannon keeps. Cuts it back inside. Hannon, and he's going to be short. He'll be about a yard short of that first down. Clock continuing to move. A minute 15. We'll see whether or not either team calls a timeout here.
I would almost expect Haddonfield to, except for the fact that even if they punt, they're going to be a good distance away from the end zone.
I think it comes down to the a one-half game, essentially, for both coaches. Both of them pleased, I think, with how the game has transpired thus far.
It almost looks now like West Deptford's going to let the clock run down and then call their last timeout.
And that is exactly what they do. So 37.3 remaining. And it is 4th down and 1. So, Scott, let me have you put the coaching hat on here. Do you go for it here?
I tend to think not. I think they'll probably play it conservatively here and be happy to go into halftime with a tie, and then try and make some adjustments at halftime to try and do what they're doing now throughout the second half and not give Haddonfield another one of those big drives.
You know, I think if they had the wind to their back, I think they'd be more apt to go for it. But Walter with the big leg for Haddonfield. With the wind to his back, we saw on the punt just how that could affect them. It only takes a couple quick passes and they'd be in the field goal position. So I would tend to agree with you. I think they're apt to punt it away.
Yeah, because, I mean, every point's going to be crucial in this game, it seems. I mean, with it just 7-7 at this point.
And they are in punt formation.
And we'll see how Cornelius here in his first start at punter handles this wind in his face, see what kind of punt he can get off.
This is Luke Cornelius, the brother of Josh. And Cornelius, with no rush whatsoever, will punt it high and short. And again, I think that's something that was planned. The one thing you don't want to end it on is a Chris Dengler punt return for a touchdown.
Possibly. I think he probably wanted to get a little further downfield than that. That'll only end up about a 10-yard punt in the end. So
agreed, but you could see he was angling towards the sideline.
Yeah.
So 28 seconds and change remaining. We are knotted at 7 here at West Deptford High School. Group 2 powerhouses. Colonial Conference matchup. Last year, West Deptford victorious over Haddonfield during the regular season, 31-28, but it was Haddonfield returning the favor in the South Jersey Group 2 championship game, 16-8. That happened back on December the 3rd.
It should be, I'll be interested to see if Frank tries to take a shot downfield here, as close to midfield as they are. And, Simnicki's been throwing the ball well, and obviously Walter's made some great catches. And, with Matt By on the other side, he's no slouch either. So, and even with tight end Alex Walter, I mean, he's got some passing options, and they're all big kids, 6'2", 6'4", 6 foot.
Semenecki working out of the shotgun. This is a case where if you're Frank Delana, the first conversation you have with your quarterback is make sure we're protecting the football.
Dingler lined up wide out to the right.
Quarterback draw, and Semenecki will keep. And that will likely be the last play of this first half. And Delano and the Haddonfield coaching staff look like they're already on their way towards the locker room. And sure enough, that'll be the last play in a tightly fought first half. We head to break. West Deptford and Haddonfield tied at 7. Welcome back to West Deptford High School. About to begin the second half. It was a tightly contested first half. First quarter, really, Haddonfield owned it, and for all intents and purposes, it was West Deptford owning the second quarter as Haddonfield scored first. West Deptford answered, and it was pretty much all West Deptford. And, you know, looking at the stats, Scott, 133 total yards to 132 total yards. That pretty much tells it. We'll talk a little bit more after this opening kick. Bundy takes it, and he's at his own 1-yard line. Cuts to the right, now up the middle, and he'll be slung down before the 20-yard line. So they are pinned back, are the Eagles, to start things. Let's talk a little bit about the stats. What stands out to you, Scott?
You know, Haddonfield dominated so much of that first quarter, but what West Deptford was able to do in the second quarter basically evened everything out across the board. I mean, 7 first downs to 6 in Haddonfield's favor. You know, the yardage, like you said, 1 extra yard for West Deptford. You know, the one thing is, you know, we noted all the penalties that Haddonfield picked up early, 5 penalties, 40 yards, I guess partly because they didn't have the ball much in the second quarter, but they stayed right there. West Deptford only 2 penalties in the first half, so if they can stay disciplined, that'll be a good sign for them.
Handoff right up the gut, and Cornelius finds a seam and exploits it. Picks up a nice chunk, about 6 or 7. There, you get a good shot of Cornelius, and you also get a good shot of how this game is going to be changed, Scott. The rain coming down, and that's really going to change the dynamic as the ball will be a little bit slicker. Don't be surprised if you see a couple loose footballs. Of course, we did see a couple fumbles in that first half. However, there were no turnovers.
And it'll be interesting to see, you know, both these teams are running teams anyway, so it shouldn't affect them that much.
Cornelius cuts it outside, and he'll be pushed out at about the 50-yard line. And now we're going to have a penalty flag here. I'm not sure about that. It looked like Walker got him while he was still in bounds.
And it was a great block by Jakubowski to seal the edge and give him the outside, and he took advantage of it for a big gain. You know, I think it was a little exaggerated, that hit, just because he slid all the way across that muddy sideline there into the bench. But, yeah, it looked like he got hit right on the sideline. So
it looks like they're going to mark it from about midfield.
Looks like they've got him placed.
Yeah, you're right. They have it up at about the 43. So 15-yard penalty because of the personal foul will put them all the way to the 28-yard line.
So that's a 34-yard run and then a 15-yard penalty tacked onto the end of it. That puts Cornelius well over 100 yards rushing for the day.
Well, we talked about the Haddonfield penalties in the first half, and they've picked up right where they left off, Scott.
And that's a huge one there. So the penalty makes it a 49-yard play, including the 15 for the penalty.
Fumble. Cornelius loses the football. Haddonfield scoops it up. It's Semenecki. Semenecki all the way to the end zone. Touchdown.
Wow. And you just said it a couple of plays before. Watch out for that slippery ball. He just never got the handoff.
You know, with these teams, it just always seems like when you think you got it figured out, it turns upside down. A big drive by West Deptford to start things, and then that penalty, it looked like West Deptford was going to march right on in and One play later, it's Haddonfield that scoops up the loose ball. Simonecki taking advantage and scoring to put Haddonfield on top 13-7. And now it'll be Walter or Baya, it'll be to attempt the point after. Baya will try to increase the lead to 7. And he does. So Haddonfield doubles up on West Deptford. It is 14-7. Coach Folsom really not pleased.
Now watch this. Here comes the play. He just didn't get his arms around it before, and then they dive for the ball, and it squirts backward. And Simonecki picks it up right about the 40-yard line, and he's off to the races. There was nobody within 10 yards of him when he picked up the ball. And you can see the speed there.
And there you see the rain. Well, as if on cue, I mentioned the ball's going to be slick. It was. And we may see a little bit more of that before it's all said and done. It has changed the dynamic of this football game already. I was speaking more to the fact that not only turnovers, but also it's going to change your game plan via the air. But it's obviously had an impact already.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, West Deptford's not a team that wants to throw the football much anyway. But now Haddonfield has the lead. When they get the ball back, if they still have the lead, if they can keep West Deptford from scoring here to tie the game up, they will not throw the ball unless they absolutely have to. They'll keep it on the ground and try and grind it out and use up that clock.
10:56 in this third quarter. It's only 1:04 in, but it's already been quite eventful.
Walter kicking off for Haddonfield.
Walter will kick it away. Remember, West Deptford was pinned back, and again, the rain has really started to come down once again.
The wind has died down, though, so we'll see if he'll have a chance to return. Oh.
End-over-end kick, and Bundy will take it back in his end zone. First down and 10 for the Eagles, and they will try to start things once again.
I mean, they've got to be happy with the way they executed those first two plays, and they did exactly what they wanted to do. Just, mishandled exchange on the run, and suddenly it's a whole different ball game.
Towns in the backfield with Cornelius. Handoff, Towns, and just nothing doing.
And that's the first time we've really seen him stopped for no gain.
Well, you can see that Haddonfield certainly got a lift after that play. Last year, West Deptford started off their playoff run with an easy win over Point Pleasant and then beat Barnegat 56-7. The two games combined leading into the Haddonfield game, they had scored exactly 100 points to the opponent's 20. And that's heady stuff considering that was in the playoffs. As if to outdo themselves, they beat Paulsboro 56-0 the next week. And a big hit laid out. Ball is loose, and it's Haddonfield football.
And that's Matt Baya right there, getting into the backfield and making a huge play to knock that ball loose.
Well, they're really getting after it in there, but it has already been motioned. You can see the rain coming down, and here's Cornelius, and he's just stuck right there.
And I believe that was number 53, Jack Knecht, that recovered the fumble that was at the bottom of that pile.
Well, Baya has had an impact here already. Cornelius losing the football on two successive drives. And again, it is really coming down now. This field is going to be tough to maneuver if you are a running back. You get a sense of the rain. We talk about a change in the half, not only from a weather standpoint, but West Deptford back on their heels here, out of the shotgun. Simonecki, he'll keep. He cuts inside. He's hit once and twice, and he'll pick up 1 or 2 yards.
Yes, I think you'll see this running game get real conservative for Haddonfield here after what they've seen the last couple of plays on defense. Actually lost a yard on that play.
Last year in that Haddonfield South Jersey Championship game, Chris Dengler with the winning touchdown, a 9-yard run in the first quarter. That was the last touchdown they scored. And we've seen what Dengler can do here. We'll see if they go to him out of the eye. Semenecki with buy-in motion. The handoff, and it's Dengler. Dengler cuts it outside. Dengler still on his feet. Touchdown!
You've got to love Dengler's ability, elusiveness, and ability to make people miss. Because he made a couple of guys miss on that play and just found his way to the outside and got inside the pylon.
Well, you get a sense that this West Deptford crowd is absolutely stunned after these last two series.
Owen for the extra point.
Haddonfield will look to increase their lead. The kick is away, and the kick is good.
Haddonfield extends its lead, 21-7.
21-7. Haddonfield with 2 touchdowns on just 2 plays from scrimmage.
I mean, you got to give them credit. You know, the defense takes advantage and scores, and then gives the offense great field position. The offense takes advantage, and you know, Chris Dengler did a great job on that run of protecting the football, and like I said, just finding ways to make guys miss and bounce it out to the outside, and was able to stay in bounds and stay inside the pylon to get in the end zone.
Well, we mentioned before that Frank Delano said that this is a guy who has created an extra gear, essentially. Once again, we've seen it. I was impressed not only from the standpoint of him avoiding the tackles, but it looked like he didn't lose a step despite the field conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the field conditions weren't that great before the game started, and this can't be helping matters because they played in the rain last week in a pouring rain for at least through the first half, and the field got pretty chewed up, and it hasn't had a lot of time to recover.
You can see on the sideline it's already starting to puddle up, so I mean that gives you an indication of what exactly you're talking about, Scott. Once again, the third kickoff here of this third quarter, still 9:19 remaining. Bundy takes it at the 3. Down the near sideline, now cuts it towards the middle. Eludes a couple tacklers, but he gets punished at about his 15-yard line. And again, West Deptford pinned back deep in their own end, and how things have changed in a hurry.
And you know, West Deptford's a team that's always been very good in the special teams game and has usually won the special teams battle, and that's been a big part of their success. They're not winning that battle so far today. I mean, you know, they're not having good success on the kickoff returns when they do have a chance to return it. And, you know, this doesn't bode well, having to put together a long drive like this after what's happened the last 2 series.
Again, you get a sense of the rain in that shot. First down and 10. Handoff inside, and again, you mentioned before, West Deptford's not a team that's going to just all of a sudden go, you know, air eagle. They're going to keep the ball on the ground.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a wise decision. If they can pound out a drive, there's plenty of time left. And, of course, with the field conditions, a turnover could change things just as quickly for the Eagles.
Right, and that's one of the nice things about having a veteran coach like Clyde Folsom to rely on is, you know, he's not going to panic at this point. He knows they still have a ton of time left and have the ability to come back on this team. They just can't afford to get any further behind.
Hannon rolls to his right, throws underneath, looks for Towns, nothing doing.
Incomplete. Brings up 3rd down and 8.
And this is the type of drive where, again, you kind of need to, at the very least, get it deeper out of your own end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, to see them roll Hannon out like that, you know, I find that an interesting strategy. You know, I guess it gives him the option to run with the ball as well, which we saw in the first half, but he doesn't seem to throw as well on the run.
3rd down, and The ball is loose.
Josh Cornelius brought down from behind.
Cornelius may have held on to that one. From here, it looked like he may have lost the handle.
Yeah, I was I was as sure as you were that ball had fallen on the ground, but he just wasn't able to find any footing. Looks like about a 4-yard loss.
So West Deptford forced a punt just about at their goal line, and there you see Haddonfield deep across midfield. Punt is short, hits at the 37, and will be down right about there.
37-yard line by Phil Fisher, 1st and 10 Haddonfield.
And obviously, I mean, this is Luke Cornelius's first chance to get significant playing time, and you just wonder if, obviously the conditions aren't great either, which may affect it as well. But just not getting a ton of distance on the punts, and Haddonfield's working with good field position again.
And again, in his defense, punting into the wind, into the rain. Baya, end around, and he'll pick up about 5. It's a critical series for West Deptford, Scott.
Yeah, they need a stop here, and I like the fact that Haddonfield's still mixing it up, using Baya in the running game, trying to take advantage of him and utilize him, even though they probably don't want to do it through the air. They still want to get him involved in the offense.
Again, you get a sense of just how hard it is raining, and Haddonfield content to eat up clock and try to prolong this drive. 2nd down, 5, 6 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, third quarter, out of the eye. Semenecki will hand it off, and still on his feet, driving forward, Dangler. You get a sense that if he stayed on his feet, he might have went all the way, but it would have been called back because there is a penalty flag.
I mean, and you've got to like the way Dangler can avoid tackles. He nearly stayed on his feet there despite basically getting tripped up.
Holding
Against Haddonfield.
Haddonfield. What's the penalty count tonight, Scott?
They had 5 for 40 yards through the early part of the second quarter. Didn't have the ball much to add on to that the rest of the first half, but that's their 6th penalty of the game, and another one that's going to push them back and give them 2nd and long to deal with.
If you're Frank Delano, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, when you look back at this game tape, you say, hey, you know what? We got to clean that up. But on the other hand, you say, hey, despite all these penalties, we played ourselves a pretty good game. We could have, done a lot more. So we'll see as the game progresses. 6:25 now, 2nd down and 8. So the penalty only really a 3-yarder for all intents and purposes. Semenecki will hand off to Dangler. Dangler with room, cuts inside, drives forward. He'll be close to a 1st down.
And that's the other part of his game there, where he's not afraid to take on a defender if he thinks he can, use it to get extra yardage.
You can't help but be impressed with Chris Dangler. 6 touchdowns coming into tonight.
And he really hasn't had a huge game tonight because he had a couple of negative plays and was getting bottled up inside early in the first half. But he's up to 11 carries for 50 yards now. And you got to think that he's gaining momentum as the game goes on, and as Haddonfield tries to build on this lead.
3rd down and 1.
3rd down and 1. 5:25 left. I formation for the Bulldogs. Semenecki hands it off, eluding the first man, right up the middle, and another 1st down. I tell you what, at this point, you have to give credit to Dangler, but that's a missed tackle.
Absolutely. They had a chance to get him in the backfield for a loss, and he somehow found a way to spin out of it. And that was Isaiah Worthy that nearly had him in the backfield, but he spun off, kept his footing, used his hand to keep his feet on the ground, and kept going. Connor Smith makes the touchdown-saving tackle.
1st down and 10 with under 5 minutes now in the third quarter. Pitch, Baya And he does well just to get near the original line of scrimmage.
Yard line.
21-7. West Deptford trailing by 14 here in this third quarter. Remember, West Deptford last season lost only to this Haddonfield team.
And I tell you what, West Deptford has had that the last few years where they've gotten off to a huge start, but the last 3 years they've lost their last 5 games of the season combined.
Again, the handoff, and now the Eagles step up. And clock continuing to move. Haddonfield content to keep it on the ground. This will be an interesting call, Scott, because you know, you may want to run it towards the middle, give your field goal kicker an opportunity to make the kick versus, you know, gamble a little bit, try to see if Semenecki can throw it through these bad conditions. So what do you think?
I don't know. I think I get the feeling that they'll be more than happy to settle for a field goal. I think they have a lot of confidence in Baya's kicking game. You know, that he can make long field goals. I mean, you know, the only consideration is the weather conditions.
And the pass is complete.
Phil Fisher on the tackle.
It's a great play by Phil Fisher there to keep that play right where it was.
And it looks like it's going to be just shy of the first down.
I don't even know. I think he didn't even.
Or,
I think he just got back to the line of scrimmage. Yeah.
You're correct. So no gain. So fourth down, and now it looks like a decision here. And they're going to have Baya come on to attempt the field goal. Clock continuing to move with 2:40 remaining. Baya will attempt the field goal here. It'll be 32 yards. And they'll have more than enough foot here. Kick is up, and the kick is good.
Kick is good.
Wow, that was impressive by Baya.
Yeah, again, like I said, they really like his game. They feel comfortable with him out there kicking the football. And the biggest part of that is it makes it a 17-point game. It's a 3-score game now. West Deptford has to score 3 times.
2 minutes and 26 seconds remaining. Baya with enough length seemingly there for 50 yards.
And that's the thing. I mean, obviously Walter is a great kickoff guy, but Baya's got a leg on him too.
You know, Scott, after watching high school football and doing these games for the past, I don't know, 12, 15 years, whatever it's been, I mean, the one thing that you get a sense of is when you have a team that is powerful offensively or defensively, you have the makings of a champion. But if you don't have that special teams component, then sometimes in the big games, that's really what it comes down to. And it looks like Haddonfield really has the full complement here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously this is a senior-laden team, 13 seniors on this roster. And, you know, they only have 1 starter on offense and 2 on defense who aren't seniors. You know, this is really a year for them. I mean, this team may be even better than last year's team that won the championship.
Nick Cooley picks up the football.
Short kick. And West Deptford will look to right the ship here with 2:22 remaining. And
Out of bounds about the 28-yard
the rain continues to come down. Cornelius losing the football on 2 occasions, but he's been their main weapon.
Yeah, I don't think they want to go away from him at this point.
Inside handoff, and just nothing doing here for Josh Cornelius.
Yeah, I think this Haddonfield defense just is getting more and more confident as the game goes on.
You can see, take a look at the field there. I don't know if we can get a tighter shot, but I mean, literally starting to pool and puddle.
And that's where it usually does, is in the middle of the field, because that's where they're all, you know, that's where most of the play is taking place. So they trample that grass down, and it gives it a chance to pool there.
And again, that just negates really the opportunity for the big play typically, and that works against West Deptford in this situation. Second down. And once again, it's going to be Cornelius who cuts against the grain, and he'll pick up maybe a couple.
I think it's pretty obvious at this point that they're expecting to see something from Cornelius. They expect him to get the ball.
Gain a yard on the play, third down and 10.
Third down and 10. West Deptford scrambling right now for a drive football. And it looks like they're not going to get it in before this play happens. Hannon rolls to his right, throws, has his man, nice throw, and that'll be very close to a first down.
And going to and you know, he hasn't targeted Jakubowski all game. I mean, you know, that's his main man, you know, the lone wide receiver that they generally line up. So, you know, if they're going to throw it, it's about time they found Jakubowski.
First down, Jakubowski showing some savvy there, just getting to the stick and getting a first down. .8 left in this third quarter. This half thus far has been all West Deptford, Haddonfield, but now Towns bounces right through the middle. Towns cut down inside the 10-yard line. Wow. Yeah, as if on cue, Towns answering the call. And it's first down inside the 10-yard line. Goal to go for the Eagles.
And, you know, we've seen Towns' power here, but here you see his speed. He breaks through the line there, missed tackle there, dodges another one, and he's off to the races. That is some great speed from a guy that size.
First and 10. Handoff, and it's Bundy. He'll pick up a couple.
Drag down, picks up a couple yards.
Spotted at the 5, and it looks like we have a Haddonfield player shaken up on the play. And it may be, it's hard to get the number here. I don't know if that's Dangler down on the sideline. I believe it is.
Yeah, that is Dangler.
That would be a huge loss to Haddonfield. They're looking at his knee.
You know, and one of the things that we talked about with Coach Delano before the game was how neither team really having been tested and the starters not playing that much was going to affect them. And he said you could potentially see cramping later in the game, so it could possibly be a cramp because Dingler's been doing an awful lot of work for this team the first 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters of this game.
I hate to speculate, but the manner in which they're approaching that leg does not look like it is a cramp.
I'm trying to stay optimistic at this point.
Well, absolutely. Like I said, I do not want to speculate. It's very possible it is something minor. At least let's hope so.
Yeah. Can't tell if they're looking at the knee or it does look like that they are looking at his left knee, but they're also checking out the calf too.
You can see he looks very upset. And you know, again, we're optimistic that it's a minor issue, but if they lose Dangler but win the game, they have to come away feeling like this is a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, okay. The trainers do have a grin, and he is limping off with a little bit of assistance, but at least he's limping off mostly under his own power.
That is a good sign, an excellent sign for Dangler, who has really shown why he's been a centerpiece of this Haddonfield offense. So with 23.4 left, second down and 5 for the Eagles.
And again, this is a very talented Haddonfield team, but it's not a deep team, so you know he's important everywhere.
I'm not sure anybody could replace a talent like Dangler. Inside of 20 seconds, West Deptford will try to snap this quickly and at least get the one more play off before the end of the third quarter. Right up the gut, driving forward, touchdown! Towns bullies his way in, and West Deptford comes back as they await the point after, 24-13, trying to recapture some of that earlier momentum.
A huge play, and and Towns was a huge part of this drive, first breaking that big run to get down into the red zone and then give it to him again to finish it off.
Kick from Cornelius is good, so with 4.5 seconds left, the score 24-14.
24, West Deptford 14.
Look at that, got hit right at the line of scrimmage, dragged Simnicki and a couple of other defenders into the end zone. Look, one of them had him by the face mask.
There was no stopping. That was a man committed to finishing his job, and he did. We talk a little bit about field condition. In terms of leverage from a defensive standpoint, very difficult once you have someone like that with a head of steam, even when it's not wet. With it being wet and muddy, it's even tougher.
Yeah, and somebody his size should be able to still find some decent footing, just because, I mean, he brings such power.
Gravity.
And has the gravity. Yes, I think I saw a small moon orbiting him earlier. But, he just has that power and can, and again, we talked about it earlier, yards after contact, yards after the catch. I mean, it's huge in a game like this. And that score is really huge right before the end of the third quarter. I don't think they want to go into the fourth quarter down 3 scores.
So West Deptford will kick it away. The flags now.
You don't know if that's because of a lack of wind or whether they're just so wet they can't blow anymore. But
yeah, it looks like the rain's coming relatively straight down. So the winds have died down, and again, it'll be Cornelius to kick it away. Cornelius's kick inside the 5. Right up the gut, a big hole. Across the 40, across the 50, across the 30, and finally brought down the 21-yard line.
I'm still worried about Chris Dangler. I really think that we have to be concerned. He only returned that 78 yards, 80 yards.
Well, Dangler, if there was any question about whether he's hurt, he has bounced back nicely, as you mentioned.
I mean, you've got to love the way that they're opening huge holes for him to get through, to get downfield. And if Cornelius doesn't make this dive, he's gone.
Cornelius with a touchdown-saving tackle. West Deptford will need to hold on defense. We'll have the fourth quarter for you in just a moment. West Deptford trails 24-14. Welcome back to a wet West Deptford High School. The Eagles trail by 10. Haddonfield really controlling that third quarter, due in large part to a pair of Eagles turnovers. And Haddonfield will look to bounce back here after another impressive run via special teams. It's really been the Chris Dangler show, and we talked about it in the open.
And, as we said, turnovers are such a huge factor in a game like this where both teams are pretty evenly matched, and that's certainly proven to be the case so far.
First down, Haddonfield. Semenecki will keep. Semenecki, and he'll have more than enough for the first down. He's stopped inbounds.
And I'm sure they're all happy with that, to keep the clock running.
Of course, in high school, the clock stops after a first down, much like college. They'll reset, and the clock will start.
And Simnicki limping to the sideline. Oh, that's not a good sign.
Well, this will be interesting here because, of course, the exchange is always going to be critical. That looks like it may be a cramp.
Definitely.
New quarterback in the game for Haddonfield. Out of the I formation. And the handoff inside. Haddonfield, touchdown.
That was Dingler again. I guess when you have to go to the backup quarterback, it doesn't hurt to have a guy like Dingler to give the ball off to.
Well, West Deptford really needed to stop there defensively, and they just couldn't do it.
But again, the special teams hurt them there by giving up such great field position. I mean, it's tough on your defense when you're only giving them 20 yards to get to the end zone.
30-14, and Bio will look to extend that lead to 31-14. A lot of the West Deptford faithful on their way out, and the kick is good. You know, Scott, have been here for a long time, doing a lot of games from West Deptford. I can't remember the last time I was here when the crowd was leaving so early due to a deficit.
Yeah, I'm sure the weather has something to do with that as well. But yeah, no, I mean, they're down 17 points with just over 11 minutes to play. I mean, it's not an insurmountable deficit. If they can drive back down and score, and then maybe force a turnover of their own, they're right back in it. But it's certainly a tall task for this team, which doesn't generally move the ball quickly downfield. I mean, they've had some big plays that have helped out the couple of times that they have, but they're going to need a lot more of that to get back into this game. You know,
one of the interesting things will be, if West Deptford can score offensively, Haddonfield, whether Semenecki's able to come back in the game. And if he isn't, then you obviously start to key on Dangler and the running game, and maybe they can get a turnover or a quick stop and make this a football game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that could play a big factor in the defense, maybe getting a 3-and-out or maybe forcing a turnover and getting the ball back to the offense. But they first got to worry about scoring on this drive right here.
Walter's been impressive. He'll kick it away. And it's a knuckleball. Bundy does well to pick it up. Heading forward now at the 20, and he's enveloped at the 22-yard line.
Brings down to the 22-yard line.
That's a little bit better return than they've been getting out of the return game, but at least they're back over the 20 now.
Bundy a little bit shaken up on the play. He'll come out and try to get his wits about him. First down and 10 for the Eagles, deep in their own end. Ball at the 22 with 11:19 remaining in this fourth quarter. Arguably the two top teams in Group 2. Hannon, quick out, finds Jakubowski, and that'll stop the clock. Well, looks like Clyde Folsom may be committed to, at the very least, mixing it up.
Yeah, they're gonna have to throw a little bit more downfield, I would think, to be able to really take advantage of this. But
Towns, your lone running back. Cornelius joins him. Towns right up the middle. Towns steamrolls his way for about 8 or 9.
Tackled by Robert Perkins.
Tell you what, and you mentioned Tom Walls in the pregame. I mean, Towns reminds you a little bit of Tom Walls in his size and the way that he runs the football. Very much straight downhill runner. Doesn't care about who runs into him or who he hits. He's just going to go for as many yards as he can before they finally find a way to drag him down.
And when you have a guy like that, and who can really dominate the line of scrimmage, you can really dictate what you do as an offense and in some respect as a defense. So, Scott, here you are. First one of the year. First down?
No, I think it's short.
Well, I've been working with Sean Leary for a long time. You already have one more than he does. So, third down and 1. Rain continues to come down.
I almost have to imagine that Towns gets the ball here again on 3rd and short.
And instead, Hannon keeps. He'll have enough. First down.
And that's an even safer option to keep the ball in your own hands.
Clock continuing to move as we now breach the 11-minute mark. Hannon throws up top. Jakubowski in and out of his hands. He got away with a little bit of a push there, but the referees had the flag tucked away.
And it almost looked like he underthrew Jakubowski, and he had to try and come back for it. And in this kind of weather, it's tough footing to try and stop on a dime and come back to the football like that. Nearly managed to make the catch anyway.
Of course, the clock stops after an incompletion. 10:45 left. West Deptford looking to put together a drive here. Ball on their own 34-yard line. Second down, Towns. This time cut down after a pickup of about 3.
And, you know, Robert Perkins there may have found the way to get Towns down, just get as low as you can and take him out from down below the knees.
Now, you know, you still have 10 minutes and change left, but you're down by 17, Scott. Are we in 4-down territory already?
I almost think you have to be at this point. You really can't afford to come away from any drive without points at this point in the game. So I would not be surprised at all to see them go for it on 4th down if they don't get it here.
Hannon throws. Jakubowski is pushed out of bounds, and he'll have enough for the first down. He does get in. Nicely done as Hannon finds Jakubowski.
And, you know, right there is where you see why he's the favorite target there and the top receiver on this team. He's got the height, he's got the hands, and, you know, just comes up with big plays when you need him to.
First and 10. Cornelius in motion. It's Towns. Towns still driving forward. Towns finally cut down. And Towns picks up about 6. So Haddonfield not dissatisfied with these 6-yard gains.
No. I mean, that just keeps the clock running. And,
Second down and 4.
you know, and you know, to be honest, in some ways, maybe this gives Simnicki more chance to recover and maybe come back onto the field for the next series.
Second down, and Hannon will roll to his right. Hannon, he'll tuck it under and run, and he'll be slung inbounds, just shy of the first down. So 3rd down and 1 for West Deptford.
That's a tough break for Hannon. I think he thought that he was going to get out of bounds there and stop the clock at least, if nothing else. But for them to keep the clock moving just puts that much more pressure on this offense.
And a fumble.
On the play.
And West Deptford hoping that they've held on to this one. Haddonfield motioning that they have it, they do not. So 4th down now for the Eagles.
Looks like Towns recovered his own fumble there, but I think we're going to find out right now whether this is 4-down territory for this team. And at midfield, I don't see where they have much other choice.
Fourth down. 1 yard to go for the Eagles. Hannon keeps. Hannon into the secondary. First down, Eagles.
That could have almost been a late hit there.
Agreed.
Dangerous play by the sophomore there, Charlie O'Neill. Nice run there by Hannon there to keep the chains moving and to keep the drive alive.
Inside of 8 minutes remaining. Haddonfield with the 17-point edge, and the rain continues to fall. Clock moving, and West Deptford, no sense of urgency right now. Hannon, quick drop, throws over the middle.
Oh,
Intercepted.
Picked off. The Bulldogs with another key turnover here. The third one of this half.
Number 19, sophomore Mike McLaughlin.
Mike McLaughlin comes away with the pick. So 3 turnovers in the second half, and that perhaps has written the ending of this first meeting of the year.
And McLaughlin might be in there because Simnicki's out, because Simnicki would normally be one of the safeties. And you see he throws into double coverage, and McLaughlin does a great job of just stopping and getting up and getting his hands up and pulling the ball in.
We saw earlier Hannon underthrowing Jakubowski, and again, a ball underthrown, and this time it cost them. 7:21 left, 31-14 Haddonfield, and with the ball and control of this football game. And Simonicki has not returned to the football game. McLaughlin hands off, and not a whole lot there. Well, as you mentioned, McLaughlin's really stepped right in to Simonicki's stead from the standpoint defensively and now as the quarterback.
And again, you know, they don't have a lot of depth. They have a lot of talent on this team, but not a lot of depth. But McLaughlin's done a great job as just a sophomore, stepping in for Simnicki on both sides of the ball, made a huge play on defense, and now he just has to make sure to hand the ball off correctly and not make any turnovers here on offense.
Second down, single back, set. McLaughlin will hand it off right up the middle, and again, not a whole lot there. Dangler still in the football game, so again, at this point, game relatively one-sided. So with Dangler being in the game, you have to assume that Dangler's injury was minor, and as you speculated, perhaps just the cramp.
And obviously that's good to see. You know, you don't want to see somebody who's had such a great start to the season, especially their senior season. You don't want to see them end with a big injury like that early in the year.
Third down for McLaughlin and the Bulldogs. Again, one running back and the pitch. Cut down. Big tackle made as Dangler gets chopped by Hannon.
And Hannon was actually getting blocked by Baya, but managed to hold his ground. You can see Baya here trying to get the block to seal the hole there, but then Hannon manages to get off it and just stick his arm out and knock him down.
But again, Haddonfield, even with the 3 plays, you have to view that as a success. Stopping that last drive of West Deptford and now able to eat up clock as we are now inside of 5 minutes remaining.
And I got to say, I liked seeing McLaughlin when he went up to the line there, wait for the back judge to start counting down before he snapped the ball, using as much clock as he could.
So the Bulldogs coaching staff will come out. If you're West Deptford, need a big play here from special teams, and as you mentioned, that's been one of the differences tonight.
Yeah, you know, and it's kind of surprising. I mean, obviously, you know, Cornelius not being able to punt has made something of a difference. You don't know how much because, you know, the weather's obviously been a factor, but, you know, the West Deptford started drives deep in their own territory on kickoffs, and Haddonfield's had a couple of huge kickoff returns, one of them called back at the beginning because of the penalty, but then another one that set up that last touchdown. And the defense just can't keep having to defend those short fields.
At the park, West Deptford girls will be playing 6 o'clock at the park against Haddonfield. Come out and support the team. Boys soccer team will be at Eastern tomorrow afternoon on the turf. Cross country for the boys and girls will be headed to Salesian Invitational tomorrow.
4th down and 10. Bundy back at his own 30-yard line. West Deptford may even just kick this one out of bounds. We'll see.
Well, West Deptford's going to be going for the block here.
Excuse me, Haddonfield may kick it out of bounds. End over end punt, and Bundy fields at the 32. Bundy strings it outside, and Bundy is slung down at the 31. You can see the West Deptford coaching staff urging Bundy to go forward. Going side to side under these conditions.
Yeah, this is not the time to try and, I mean, you want a big return, but you also don't want to make any big mistakes and hurt the offense anymore. And, yeah, with this footing, I mean, it's just so hard to make quick cuts and especially to try and outrun a defender.
4:35 remaining, 31-14. Bulldogs. We were tied at the half. Hannon rolls, throws, nobody home. Looking for Towns.
Second down and 10.
Once again, Dangler on the coverage.
And he was under a lot of pressure there, and I almost wonder if they're worried about just having him drop back in the pocket because they seem to be rolling him out an awful lot.
That's a good point.
And especially with the footing as bad as it is, you almost wonder if it wouldn't be better just to give him a chance to plant his feet and throw.
Well, again, not much doing there. If you're West Deptford coming out of this game, next week you take on a Haddon Heights team that is no pushover, Scott.
No, I think, I think, again, we, mentioned a little bit that Haddon Heights was, and very impressive last week against Woodbury, not just offensively but defensively as well. And I don't think that you can, assume anything just because of the success that West Deptford's had in recent years.
Hannon over the middle, has his man. Big hit laid out, but a first down. Jakubowski again, and they're across midfield with 3:48 remaining.
See, in that time, he stayed back in the pocket, and he was able to get something on that ball. And even though there was a crowd there in the middle of the field, Jakubowski was able to come down with the football.
First and 10 from the 47-yard line.
Clock continues to move inside of 3:35 now. Quick drop, and Hannon slung down. A loss of about 9.
And what a surprise, Matt Baya.
We talked about West Deptford next week facing Haddon Heights. Haddonfield has it considerably easier. They'll take on Sterling and Lindenwold over the next 2 weeks before their next big matchup against Paulsboro. That coming on October the 22nd at Paulsboro. Bundy in motion. Hannon, hands off. A nice little move, and just tripped up was Smith. Smith favoring one leg right now, but Smith showing a little bit of a burst.
Yeah, that was a nice move there. If they don't catch his ankle there, then he might be able to break that for a lot more yardage, but at least it's a more manageable third down situation now. Gains the yardage back from the sack, so.
This game all but decided with under 2:30 remaining and Haddonfield owning a 17-point edge. Hannon now rolls to his left, slips, throws across the middle, has his man, and that should be enough for a first down as he finds Nick Pulley.
Tight end there, just a sophomore, and that's his first catch of the year.
First down, Eagles.
At the very least here, Scott, it provides an opportunity for West Deptford to really kind of run a 2-minute offense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a chance for this team to get some experience. Obviously Hannon's a veteran guy, Cornelius, but they have some younger kids on this team like Pulley, who are new to the offense this year and new to the starting lineup. So it gives them a chance to, get involved.
See Clyde Folsom calling over his team after calling a timeout. First down at 10.
Haddonfield has called just one timeout so far, and that's Robert Perkins down on the field now being looked at by the trainer. West Deptford still has all 3 timeouts left, but with so little time left on the clock, they're going to need a lot more than 3 timeouts. I think they would need 7 or 8 at least.
Round of applause to Robert Perkins.
It's my first opportunity to work with Scott Chappelier, who's a writer on the Gloucester County Times. Scott, tell us a little bit about what you do over there.
We have our Friday forecast that comes out every Friday, where we feature usually 6 key games in our coverage area, which includes Gloucester County, Salem County, and a little bit of Cumberland County as well. And we do predictions for all the games. A handful of the writers and one of the top photographers on staff do that. And then Monday mornings, I have my point after column that runs.
And a penalty flag here. Probably going to have a man downfield illegally. So, who did you pick in today's affair?
I picked Haddonfield. I picked a closer game than this because I didn't see, obviously the rain has had a big impact here in the second half with the turnovers and everything with Haddonfield building up a lead. But I did feel like that Haddonfield had the momentum from last year, and just the way they played early in the season, especially the defense, not giving up a point yet, you really liked that aspect of the game. And I thought that if their defense could keep West Deptford somewhat in check and keep that ground attack from eating up a lot of clock, that they had the chance to, especially with an experienced guy like Bai on special teams, to maybe make a difference and win a close game.
Well, it's an opportunity for the people out there to read tomorrow's news today. Read Scott Chappelier. He'll tell you everybody's going to win. You don't even have to go to the games. Handoff, Smith. And he'll have what appears to be a first down.
Tackled by Chris Taylor.
Actually, he may be just shy.
It's going to be 2nd down and 1.
Well, look at that hole open up on the right side, and he had blocking downfield too, which obviously, including Hannon there. Again, Hannon getting downfield and making a nice block there.
Towns. And Towns cut down, but not before gaining enough for the first down. Ball at the 20-yard line, 1st and 10. Clock at 1:18 left. West Deptford would love to punch one in before it's all said and done here. Hannon throws Jakubowski in and out of his hands.
And some, good defense there. It wasn't an easy catch, especially in these conditions.
There you see Hannon. He's had himself a busy day. We mentioned before he goes both offensively and defensively. Both of these teams ask quite a bit of their top-tier players.
Yeah, this is a West Deptford team that actually has a lot of two-way players, which is not as usual as with other teams.
Smith right up the middle. Smith stretches forward. He'll be just shy of the goal line. More than enough for the first down. First down and goal for the Eagles.
Tell you what, Connor Smith's making some nice runs here late. This is good for this team to find a little depth at running back, and Connor Smith might be earning himself some more playing time.
First and goal. Hannon hands off Towns, and he is shy. So clock will continue to run here. 2nd down, and we are inside of 40 seconds remaining in this football game.
Looked like he was holding the ball real low to his body and didn't get any stretch on that, so didn't get the benefit of the doubt on the play.
Hannon again to Towns, and Towns is stopped once more.
This Haddonfield defense does not want to give up another score before this game's over.
And Clyde Folsom calls timeout. 17.6 seconds left, and 3rd down and goal.
And you know, West Deptford beat them twice in 2008.
Towns stopped again. And once again, the Eagles call timeout with 11 seconds left.
This is an amazing stand by this Haddonfield defense. You know, it doesn't really mean anything for them, but, you know, nonetheless, they're doing everything they can to keep this score right where it is.
Well, at this point, I think it's kind of a battle of wills. West Deptford wants to come away with this feeling good, you know, culminating in a drive. And Haddonfield wants to know that their defense can step up in a big situation. Again, you can see the weather. You see some of the faithful still on hand here watching the final outcome. But, you know, Towns having a little bit of a difficulty in the offensive line, having a difficulty with a push here in the rain. But we mentioned before, it's no picnic for the defense either in gaining leverage. And, again, right now this is just a battle of wills. It seems relatively insignificant, but I think it comes away being a big play for each team in terms of their mental approach from this point on.
And especially with Haddonfield having the upper hand now in Group 2 and in the Colonial.
And now Hannon strings it, pitches, Smith angles, touchdown.
Touchdown, Eagles.
Well, Connor Smith finally answers the bell here for the Eagles. And with the extra point, they will draw to within 10 with just 5.3 seconds remaining. And again, it's an opportunity for West Deptford to come away with knowing that they finished up strong. They can talk about the turnovers being the difference in this football game, and Haddonfield can kind of shake off one of the things that have troubled them over the past few years, and that's West Deptford during the regular season.
And this should give the Haddonfield team a huge boost going forward.
And the kick is good. So 5.3 left. They will attempt the onside kick. It's a low line drive. Haddonfield falls on the football only half a second essentially off the clock. And this will be the last play of this football game.
It'll be 1st and 10 at the 41-yard line.
Well, you have to expect that the likelihood is that these two teams may cross paths one more time in November or maybe even December.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, that last touchdown is a big thing for this West Deptford team to hopefully gain some momentum, take it into that Haddon Heights game, because, again, that's not going to be an easy game either, and they can't afford to overlook that team.
Haddonfield takes a knee, and that'll do it. Simonecki started things, and he finished them by taking the knee, and that'll do it here as Haddonfield victorious over West Deptford 31-21. Some final thoughts, Scott?
You know, you've got to be impressed with this Haddonfield team. I mean, this is a huge step forward. They don't see Haddon Heights until Thanksgiving, so it won't play any role in PowerPoints or playoff seeding. But, you know, you've got to feel like Haddonfield is got to be the favorite to have a top seed, if not the top seed in Group 2. And if they get home field throughout, I mean, you know, that's not an easy place to go play.
If you're West Deptford and you're Clyde Folsom, what do you say to your football team?
I mean, you know, obviously I think the weather played a factor, but, I mean, you know, he's not going to make excuses about this. He's going to say we've got to hold on to the football better. We've got to, you know, do more on offense to keep our defense from those short fields. Just, you know, your defense can only hold them off so long.
Well, I guess the one thing that you can, you know, at least grab a hold of is that the team that was victorious during the regular season lost in the playoffs. So West Deptford is hoping that trend continues. Of course, Haddonfield well on their way to claiming stake to the top seed, and I don't know any football team that does not want to be home throughout their playoff run. Again, your final score here from West Deptford High School. It was the Bulldogs of Haddonfield victorious 31-21 over West Deptford. For my partner, Scott Chappelier, my director, John Mondelli, and our faithful crew who has endured all the elements tonight and, of course, always doing a superior job. My name is Rob Chris. Thank you for joining us tonight
Hope to see you soon. Good night, everybody.